You know that feeling, right? When you have a customer service experience that's just so good, so seamless, it feels like actual magic? You walk away thinking, wow, well, that feeling, it's not an accident. Not at all. It's architecture. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how great companies intentionally design those wow moments.
So let's just dive right in. We've all been on both sides of this coin, haven't we? The frustrating phone call that goes absolutely nowhere, and then that surprisingly easy return that makes you a loyal customer for life. So what's the difference? What really is the secret to delivering an amazing experience, time and time again? Well, it's not about luck, and it's not just about hiring friendly people. It's about having a plan.
I mean, take a look at PetSmart. They used to be your classic big box store, a giant warehouse just focused on selling products. But as their profits got thinner, they made a really smart strategic pivot. They moved into services, things like grooming, training, and yeah, even the PetSmart hotel. This wasn't just some random idea. It was a deliberate design choice to build a much deeper, service-based relationship with their customers. And that whole pivot really highlights the central challenge of this entire field. Services are, well, they're intangible. You can't hold a haircut in your hand before you get it, right? You can't test drive a hotel stay. And because they're intangible, it's incredibly difficult to engineer them for quality. You're basically trying to build something that's fundamentally invisible.
So if you can't see it, you gotta describe it with words. But honestly, that's a huge trap. Just relying on words leads to all kinds of problems. It's an oversimplification. It's incomplete, because an employee often only knows their one small part of the whole process. But most importantly, words are totally subjective. I mean, what does quick service actually mean? To you? To the manager? To the person at the counter? Everybody has a different mental picture, a biased interpretation. And you just can't build a consistent wow experience on a foundation that's shaky.
Okay, so if words fail us, what's the solution? Well, you have to make the invisible visible. You need a map. And that brings us to the absolute core tool for designing great service.
It's called a service blueprint. This is really the hero tool for this whole explainer. And it's pretty much what it sounds like, a map that lays out the entire service process from start to finish. The real key here is that it shows the system objectively. It's not about what people think is happening, it's about what actually happens, visualizing every single point of contact and even the physical stuff the customer sees along the way.
A blueprint is built around this really critical idea, the line of visibility. See that horizontal line? Everything above it is what we call onstage. It's everything the customer can see and interact with. Everything below it is backstage, all the hidden support processes and employee actions that make the onstage show possible. And this illustrates it perfectly. Check out this blueprint for an express mail service. The customer calls, they hand over a package. Those are all onstage, visible actions. But what they never see is all the backstage work. The package being flown somewhere, sorted in some massive hub, and loaded onto a truck. A truly great service happens when both the onstage and backstage actions are perfectly in sync. And the blueprint, that's what lets you see it all at once. And making one of these isn't just guesswork, it's a structured, 6-step process. You figure out the process, you know who the customer is, and, this is the most important part, you start by mapping the entire journey from the customer's point of view. Only after you do that do you map out what employees and technology need to do to deliver that journey. It forces the whole organization to see itself through its customer's eyes. All right, so a blueprint gives you the map of the experience. But a map doesn't tell you how fast to go or what a good trip even looks like. For that, you need standards. And not just any old standards. They have to be the ones your customers actually care about. And the crucial distinction here is between two very different approaches. See, most companies start over on the left with company-defined standards. They're all about internal stuff like cost and efficiency. But the really exceptional service providers, they live on the right. They build customer-defined standards based on what people actually want and expect. It's a huge shift from asking, how can we be more efficient, to asking, what does our customer think good service is? Now, within those customer-defined standards, there are two main types. You've got hard standards, the things you can count in time, like on-time delivery. And you've got soft standards, the stuff you can't really count, but you can measure through perception, like courtesy or empathy. It kind of reminds me of that great quote from Einstein. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. You absolutely need both. And for hard standards, there is no better example than the FedEx Service Quality Index. This is just brilliant. They don't just track failures, they weigh them based on how much they annoy the customer. So a lost package? That's a complete catastrophe, right? Boom, it gets a massive weight of 50 points. A package that arrives on the right day but is just a little bit late? Yeah, still a failure, but a much smaller one, so it's only weighted at 5 points. It's a masterful way to focus the entire company on preventing the failures that matter most to their customers. Soft standards can feel a little fuzzy, but great companies make them concrete. LL Bean actually trains employees on using an appropriate tone of voice. The Mayo Clinic makes respect, kindness, and dignity a core standard for every single person on the team. And look at Zappos. They have a hard metric, answering 80% of calls in 20 seconds, that directly supports a soft standard of being responsive and available for their customers.
So let's bring this all home. When you combine that visual map of a service blueprint with a really clear set of hard and soft customer-defined standards, well, that's when you get the formula for creating genuine delight.
This might just be the ultimate example. A place called John Roberts Spa created this customer experience cycle. It's a super detailed list of expected behaviors for every single step of a visit. I mean, just think about this. It specifies everything from the call they make before your visit to using your name 4 times when you check in, all the way to a follow-up call after you leave. This is a blueprint and a set of standards all fused into one powerful guide. This is service design in action.
And that, right there, is the secret we asked about at the very beginning. It isn't magic. It's a formula. First, you have to deeply understand your customer and what they actually value. Second, you blueprint the entire visible and invisible process that's required to deliver that value. And third, you set hard and soft standards that make sure the experience is delivered consistently and with excellence.
So I'll leave you with this question. Think back to the last time a company truly wowed you. Now that you've got these tools in your head, try to imagine the blueprint. What were all the hidden, backstage things that had to happen perfectly for your onstage experience to feel so magical? Once you start looking for the blueprint, I promise you'll start seeing it everywhere.